A new report by the National Intelligence Council is pouring cold water on Israel's claims that UNRWA staffers are linked to Hamas. Now, this is the humanitarian aid organization that had been providing humanitarian aid to Palestinians in Gaza as this brutal war continues on. But after Israel claimed that members of UNRWA were involved in the October 7th Hamas atrocities, more than a dozen countries pulled funding from the organization, thus crippling it and making it harder for the organization to provide the humanitarian aid Palestinians in Gaza need to survive. Now, Israel had made two main claims about UNRWA. Number one, that 12 of its employees participated in Hamas's atrocities on October 7th. 9 of the staff accused were sacked by the head of the agency, who said he followed reverse due process in doing so. Felipe Lazzarini, the Commissioner General of the UNRWA, told a press conference in Jerusalem earlier in February that he had not investigated the evidence before the firing. And part of the reason why he did that was because he wanted to make it very clear that UNRWA takes those allegations seriously, because they want UNRWA to keep having credibility so it could continue operating in Gaza. It is a critical organization for the Palestinian people, for civilians in Gaza. Now, the other claim that Israel made was that 10% of all UNRWA workers were affiliated with Hamas. So let's get to the intel report and see what they found. Okay, again, this is US intelligence. The intel report indicates that while some accusations are credible, they could not be independently verified. The intelligence report assessed with low confidence that a handful of staff had participated in the attack, indicating that it considered the accusations to be credible, though it could not independently confirm their veracity. Okay, the way that they frame this is hilarious to me, because how is it credible if you haven't been able to find any evidence of the claim? Highly credible, but we don't have any receipts.
Yeah, well, to be fair, they didn't say highly credible. They said credible and low confidence. But Anna's 100% right. If you say in the same statement that you have no evidence to confirm their veracity, then it's a very literal question. Then what gives you even low confidence that it is credible? If there's literally no evidence, and I didn't say that, you said that. So what gives you credibility? What makes it credible? Oh, because Israel said it. So no, this is the US's way of saying, yes, Israel made this up. When the United States government says there is no evidence to confirm the veracity of what Israel said, that means Israel 100% made it up. Now, speaking of making things up, Anthony Blinken back in January when this came out said that it was, quote, highly credible. Now we know there was actually no evidence. The US government had no evidence. So Blinken, you were 100% lying. So are people going to ask Blinken, why did you lie about that report? Your own intelligence community says there's zero evidence. So what made you say it was highly credible? That's what made everybody go, oh my God, let's pull the funding. America says it's true, it's highly credible. I got news for you. Anthony Blinken's a giant liar. Joe Biden's a giant liar. Everyone that works for America is a giant liar and works for, I'm not allowed to say it. Okay, they are very fond of Israel. We might have millions of people watching this show, but you can be the difference maker, because we just need 1% of our audience to be paid members, and then this show can be around forever. So you can make that difference. Click join now.
So maybe they framed it that way to try to avoid embarrassing the literal Secretary of State in making this allegation that it's highly credible that these staffers had engaged in the atrocities on October 7th. But let's get to the second claim. So as far as the claims of a broader group of UNRWA staffers being affiliated with Hamas, the report casts doubt on accusations that the UN agency was collaborating with Hamas in a wider way. Although the UNRWA does coordinate with Hamas in order to deliver aid and operate in the region, there was a lack of evidence to suggest it partnered with the group. It added that Israel has not shared the raw intelligence behind its assessments with the United States, which again is a departure from what we heard before. Because before we kept hearing about the Israeli dossier on UNRWA, the Israeli dossier that has all the evidence, laid out. And then Channel 4 News in the UK got its hands on that Israeli dossier, and they're like, wait a minute, there's no evidence in here whatsoever. And in fact, all of those UNRWA staffers had been vetted and approved by the Israeli government in order to operate in the Gaza Strip. So what's going on here? And now we're hearing from our own intelligence community that, yeah, there's no evidence to back up these claims. In fact, we haven't seen any evidence.
Yeah, now, let me just make it even clearer. If Israel has not shared the raw intelligence, there is no non-raw intelligence. That means Israel has not shared the intelligence. That means there is no evidence. And America went out and had their dog Secretary of State go out there and say it was highly, highly credible when they didn't even receive any intelligence from Israel. That is unreal, except it's the most real thing in the world. But we're all supposed to pretend that this isn't happening. Look, there's wonderful people inside the American government. That poor service member lit himself on fire to protest all the people that are being killed at our behest.
And died as a result.
So what a tragedy and what a hero to try to bring attention. But it's not gonna work because money is so much more important than lives. And that money doesn't go to the American people, it goes to our scumbag politicians. And there's good people in Israel. There's massive protests in the streets in Netanyahu now. So I don't want anybody thinking this is about certain people or certain countries. All countries and people are varied. There's liberals, there's conservatives, there's a giant mix. But the government of Israel is butchering the Palestinians. And the reason that they are trying to cut off UNRWA's funding is because UNRWA is the only thing that helps Palestinians with food, medicine, schooling. And they don't want the Palestinians to have any of that because the monsters who run the right-wing government of Israel think if we crush them enough and we humiliate them enough, then they'll be our dogs forever. And then we could just take more of their land and more of their maritime rights and make more money. And do the Israeli people get that money? No, the leaders and the people that they're connected to get that money. Same crooks that are at the top of all of these governments. I'm sick of it. And yes, I got news for you if you work in American media. If Israel tells you something in the middle of a conflict like this, it has about a 98% chance of being a lie. And if you still haven't figured that out after this outrageous lie, then you're never gonna figure it out because you don't wanna figure it out. And so, by the way, has every news agency that reported that UNRWA was working with Hamas, have they all done retractions? Now that we are absolutely certain that US intelligence says that Israel didn't even share any intelligence with them. Didn't share any evidence with them. Where's the goddamn retractions? Are you in the news business or are you not in the news business? I haven't seen these. This is a good report. Financial Times, UK, Channel 4 in the UK, wonderful job. The rest of you, where are you? Where's all your retractions? You're not journalists.
To be fair, the Wall Street Journal was the first to report on this NIC intelligence report, so credit where credit is due on that. But the thing that I'll just say is, aside from the press correcting previous errors, I want to know when the funding is going to be reinstated for UNRWA. Because it has been totally like kneecapped over these allegations with no evidence to back up the allegations. And finally, the report also notes, and the Wall Street Journal specifically talked to a US intelligence source familiar with the report. The source says that there is a specific section of the intel report that mentions how Israeli bias serves to mischaracterize much of their assessments on UNRWA, and says this has resulted in distortions.
That is as close as US intelligence has ever gotten to saying, of course Israel's lying. Even we have to tell you, of course Israel's lying. How dumb are you? Okay, come on. All right, if you still think that Israel's the good guys and those Palestinians should be occupied for 75 more years and the humanitarian groups trying to help them are the bad guys, you just don't care about reality at all. And so there's nothing I could do to help you in a situation like that. But if there's any decency of any people in power in America, they have to turn around on UNRWA, on Israel, on all of this. Do you know the funding we cut for UNRWA is about 1% of the extra money we're going to send to Israel? So we're literally going to send 100 times the amount of money that would have gone to humanitarian aid to the Palestinians, who are right now, a quarter of them are starving.